Okay, we're continuing in chapter 46. Elder Rebbe gave a beautiful metaphor, and we started to unpack it yesterday. We continue with it today, of a very powerful king who is going, I guess, along the countryside with a retinue, complete princesses, ministers, important people from the palace, and sees an individual who's tattered, living on a dunghill, lowly commoner. And the king himself unsaddles, goes to, or not unsaddles, but comes off the horse. It comes and takes this individual, removes him from the dunghill, brings him to the palace, to the inner chamber, and has a very close bond and intimate close relationship. And this is a metaphor for God Almighty, who is the ultimate king, who has a retinue of ministers, angels, and souls, and worlds, and all types of things. And leaves all that, not interested, and comes to this lowly individual, the nation of Israel, who are very low because they're in Egypt. Not only are they enslaved physically, but spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, they are very removed. They're tattered. And he removes them from there. Not through an angel, not through any other force, but God himself. And brings him into the inner palace to have an intimate relationship, as we explained, a royal embrace through mitzvahs, and as we're learning now, Torah, a very deep bond of a kiss through the study of Torah. That's what we explained in brief till now. Now that it continues with this idea and says, well, every time we do a mitzvah, we make a blessing. And the idea of a bracha is to give us an awareness of what we're engaged in. And although all blessings begin the same, they end differently based on what the mitzvah that you're engaged in. So what is the blessing? Asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav, that he has two, the word kirishanu has a double meaning. Betrothal and sanctification. First, the Alter Rebbe brings out the idea of betrothal. That through this mitzvah, we are betrothed to God. What does it mean, betrothal? Well, of course, we take from the human experience. And what is the human experience? As the verse says, and he shall cleave to his wife, and they shall be one flesh, as it says in the book of Genesis. In other words, a perfect bond. Betrothal is a bond between husband and wife, that they're united. In the deepest bond that there is actually in this world. And the Alter Rebbe says exactly similar to that, but infinitely more so is the bond in the union of our divine soul, our vivifying soul / animal soul and its garments, when we engage, as we're doing right now, in the study of Torah. That we are becoming united, betrothed, one with God. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe says, King Solomon, he wrote a whole book on this, Song of Songs. And what is it about? Well, it's about a man and a woman, but really the man is God, the woman is the Jewish people, and that through Torah and mitzvahs, there's a union between the groom and the bride. An attachment. And how's that attachment? Through the royal embrace, as we explained. Every mitzvah there's a royal embrace. And every time we study Torah, there's the divine kiss. Divine kiss, again, that we are uttering the words of his divine will and wisdom. And so to speak, he's saying it with us. So therefore there's the the kiss, the lips coming together in saying the words of Torah. And then there is when you understand those words, so then it becomes now not you're just saying something externally, but it becomes now internalized. It becomes your thoughts. It becomes your understanding, your intelligence, and which means that's the breath of God that is entered through the kiss into us, and therefore we are totally bound up in one. That's the idea of betrothal. That's the idea of marriage. That union, that oneness. So that's the first thing that occurs when we do a mitzvah, when we study Torah. That union. The Alter Rebbe says, well, the same word kiddishanu, the word kadosh, also means sanctified. And what does it mean, sanctified? No. Sanctified means elevated, means separated. So the Alter Rebbe explains what does it mean separated. Well, we know that God animates the world through immanence and transcendence. The transcendence of the light of God as he animates the world, we can't experience it beyond us. The immanent light is something we can understand, we can appreciate. Right? What makes one creation different than another creation? We can appreciate that. We can appreciate it physically in science, so to speak, and spiritually through the teachings of the Torah and how God animates everything uniquely to be its unique creation. But then there is the transcendent light of God that is beyond something we can experience, beyond something we can understand and appreciate, that is Kodesh, that is holy, that is separate, that is beyond. Well, when we fulfill a mitzvah, when we do a mitzvah, we're also being attached to that level of supreme holiness of God, that God elevates us through that mitzvah to that level of the divine that is beyond, transcends this world. And we're absorbed in that infinite light. And that's what it means that you shall be holy because I am holy. Now there's God is separated, holy meaning separated, above and beyond the human condition. And God is that way. And that we are also uniquely that way. And that's what makes the Jewish people, that separation. Just like in marriage, I become separated to my wife becomes separated to me, meaning there's no other. So likewise, in the mitzvah that we fulfill, God gives to the Jewish people that uniqueness of holiness, separate, and that's what makes us ultimately, the holy people, the holy land, the holy people, and so on. Meaning that there's that kiddishanu, kadosh, sanctified, separated, transcending the human condition. That's why, by the way, all other nations of the world will come and go. Not the Jewish people, though. So, the Egyptians were here of old. The Greeks were here of old. The Byzantines, the Romans, they were all came. They flourished. They had their day in the sun, or they shone. But then the sun set on them, but not the Jewish people. That's why the Jewish people are likened to the moon, because the moon waxes and wanes, so we'll have our ups and downs, but we're always going to be around. Why? Because of this idea. Through Torah and mitzvahs, right? It's because of the Torah and mitzvahs that we have that allows us to be separated. So we have a union, a oneness with God, but at the same time we also have, through the Torah and mitzvahs, that transcendence. And that's what makes the Jewish people the transcendent people that we are, eternal people in that respect. And that's what makes, as God is eternal, so that's what makes the Jewish people then the holy people and God's people in that respect, right? Now, some people might have a difficulty with that, um, but they shouldn't, because any other people that thought that they were special, that just led them to subjugate others and hate others. But here, this leads the Jewish people to be separated in the sense of holiness and being absorbed in the encompassing light of God through a mitzvah that we perform, and allows us then to be a light unto to the nations, and not to subjugate them in a sense of what's the word I'm looking for, of making them less than. No, to bring out their unique mission, their unique fact that they're created in the divine image as a human being. But this is something that's added to the Jewish dimension. And this is what it means that now the Alter Rebbe takes it now. So we have a union. Betrothal is a union, a oneness, like in marriage. So what's beautiful over here is everything is related to marriage, because it is a marriage. It is a relationship. So if we understand this relationship with God, we understand other human relations, or marriage relationship at least. And so we have the union, the closeness, the separateness as a result of that, of this unique union, brings now to a separateness, in other words, a transcendence as a result. That's what the relationship brings. And all of this is expressed through doing a mitzvah, through studying Torah. And then we come to this then, that it says in the verse that when you fulfill the commandment of God and you become holy, so the verse continues in the book of Numbers, that I'm the Lord your God, which is interesting. Not that we're his, but he's ours. Possessive, right? In the sense that, like as a man betroths a wife, she becomes his wife. What does that mean? So through fulfillment of commandments, God says, I become yours. I become yours. And that's what it says in prayers. The God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, of Isaac, and Yaakov, and Jacob. Well, what does that mean? Because the patriarchs, they were on a level of a vehicle. What's a vehicle? A vehicle, I mean, it's even a car, you could, is also that way, but the chariot is ridden by the rider. The chariot has no will of its own, like a car has no will of its own. It goes to the right, to the left, based on the driver that is leading it. So the patriarchs had no will and whim of their own. They were totally led by the divine, no independent will, totally absorbed in his light. Again, transcendent light, to be absorbed in that. And by being absorbed in that transcendence of the human condition in the light of God, that allows us that now we become sort of absorbed in God and nothing independent of me. Now, every time we do a mitzvah, that's what's happening. Think about it. In the act of doing a mitzvah, I'm putting aside me to be absorbed in the light of God. So every time that a Jew does that in Torah, in mitzvahs, is absorbed in transcending, kiddishanu, holy, sanctified. Sanctified again meaning separated from the human condition, absorbed in the infinite light of God in the act of doing the mitzvah. Now the difference is that we do that only when we visit the mitzvah, right? And we study Torah. The patriarchs, the matriarchs, they were constantly absorbed in the divine. They were in every fiber of their being, nothing but a vehicle for the divine, nothing but a reflection of that transcendent light of God. We are, when we, engage in the mitzvah, we're not refined sufficiently because we have a body and an animal soul that still has a whim and a desire of its own, and often enough, we follow it. The patriarchs or holy people like the Rebbe, like the Alter Rebbe, they are so refined that their body does not become at all a barrier. On the contrary, it's been transformed, that they are able to see the divine image, the divine vision, rather. And that's what holy, righteous people. Now, we will have that experience in the time to come of Mashiach, a reminder of the wonderful course that's coming up. But we don't experience it now because we're not refined sufficiently. Our material being isn't refined. Our animal soul still, rears its ugly head from time to time. So what do we have over here? Beautiful thought. Right now we have this perfect union with God, as in marriage, betrothal. That leads to a sanctification, a holy, meaning separateness. What does that mean? It means that we're not just being united in the sense of down here and stuck down here, but we're elevated beyond the human condition and truly absorbed in the divine light of God, so much so that we can call God my God. My God. Careful how you say that, He's mine. What do you mean he's mine? I'm his. I'm absorbed in him. No, but because in that moment, I'm so identified in one with and separated from the human condition that the worldliness is sort of lost its allure. This is my pen. This is my life. This is my, in the act of the mitzvah, that's gone in that moment. Now, afterwards, maybe this becomes like, this is my thing. I want things. This is nothing. You know why? Because there's no thing. Because in the act of the mitzvah, we transcend things, which is the human condition, absorbed in that and separated from it in the divine light, in that act of the mitzvah, in the study of Torah. It's that all there is one thing, my God, that I am a part of. Again, we may not, we're expounding this, and we probably don't feel this when we do a mitzvah. This is a mental awareness that we now can have in our lives, which is extremely powerful, of course. Extremely powerful. And it helps us to rise above the pettiness of life. Because in the end, there is no things. There's nothing. But the fact that He's my God. In this moment that I'm connecting with Him. As I'm betrothed and separated from the mundane of this world, and now become sanctified in this act of doing a mitzvah. Whew, powerful stuff. Powerful, powerful stuff. I know now that. I want to thank there's a couple of people that almost every day say, I know now that, and share. Eugenia, Davida, Linda, Liba, John. I want to encourage others to please Right up, I know now that. First of all, it's great for you. And it works for me too, because then I can share that with others so that they can regurgitate it and make sure that everybody has it. And I use it on my YouTubes. And I actually, copy and paste. I make a little correction, I don't know, correction, but a little enhancement on what you say, but it helps me. So thank you for sharing. And we can do that verbally too. And if we have questions, please do ask them. Tim can speak about the sanctification of the object of the mitzvah, tefillin, mezuzah, food, coins, Torah studies, right? Yes. That's not the point over here, but that is true, that when you're using a physical object in the mitzvah, so that it becomes absorbed in the divine light of God, absolutely correct. Here we're speaking about a reciprocal love. So when we understand what God is doing for us, He is giving me the opportunity that I could have a union with Him that is even greater than that of husband and wife. Giving through Torah and mitzvahs. He's giving me the opportunity that I can become, rise above the human condition through the Torah and mitzvahs, and become sanctified, holy, become absorbed in the light that is beyond this world, and therefore, collectively as a people, we are eternal people in that respect through Torah and mitzvahs, and then through that becomes my God, possessive, meaning I'm such a vehicle to the divine, such a reflection of the divine. We do that right now because we're putting aside other things, occupying our minds right now with understanding Tanya, and not occupying your minds with something else. You're a vehicle for God, so much so that you can call Him my God. Not as continuously as the holy people and tzaddikim, but nonetheless we have that quality, which is a powerful thing that we are having at this very moment in doing the mitzvah. So we're talking about a reciprocal love. Tim, what you're mentioning, and it's very true. At the same time, the physical objects that we use in the mitzvah, they become sanctified. They're not in the same manner as we are. They become the spark of the divine that animates them. They become elevated. Absolutely true. But that was, we dealt with that idea in chapters 35 through 37 about how the physical world is, something that we don't renounce. We're not renouncing it. We're engaging in it and using the physical world to elevate it. So it's absolutely correct. But just to make sure that we have the focus of what what the Alter Rebbe is dealing with now, is giving us another way that we can have a love of God, a reciprocal one. Look what He's doing for us, so won't we reciprocate? I hope that's clear. But thank you.
This is so beautiful, Rabbi. And I guess as a feature of who I am and perhaps my culture, I'm like very possessive, so everything's mine. Especially if I love it, it's mine.
Very good. So we got to be careful what it is we're possessive of.
Right?
Yeah, very good. Thank you for sharing that. Deborah, I know now that my inner spirit loves being a part of this class. It feels like a shining moment. Thank you, Deborah, for sharing that. That's beautiful. Thank you, thank you. Eugenia says, I know now that when we are engaged in an act of a mitzvah, we are absorbing the light of God. We're being absorbed in the light of God, a transcendent light that unites us with Hashem and allows us to transcend the human condition. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Rena, I know now that when I do a mitzvah, it is bound up in the light of Hashem. Yes. Very good. Excellent. Anybody here else to share with us on Clubhouse? Batya, Adi, Jason, Dana, Sina, Devora, Mer, and Sloan. Please, if you have something to share, do so. Irma. Oh, and I forgot Irma always also every day shares. I know now that. I'm sorry if I forgot somebody. It'll come up when you do it. I know now that studying Torah is like a divine kiss. In saying and understanding these words, they are becoming internalized and becoming our thoughts, understanding, and intelligence. The breath of God enters through the kiss into us. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes. All right. So, I just want now to emphasize the idea, the fact that the Jewish people are a chosen people, chosen to be sanctified, to be holy, transcending the human condition. Other people have a purpose in God's creation to reflect the divine image that they have in them, absolutely, and to create, a better world to live in through the seven Noahide laws, through an awareness of a relationship that they have with God through those seven Noahide laws. The uniqueness of Torah mitzvahs that the Jewish people have something eternal in it, beyond the human condition. And ultimately, it is something that, of course, is unique, absolutely. But from that uniqueness, that difference is, I want to reiterate, because I know that some people are uncomfortable with the notion of being different. And there's nothing wrong with it. On the contrary, the Talmud tells us there's no two faces alike. There's no two minds alike. And actually, as I add, there's no two thumbprints that are alike. Because there is to be individuality in the context of serving God, in the context of, individuality doesn't mean individual separate from God, connected to God, a union with God through Torah and mitzvahs for the Jew, and seven Noahide laws for someone who isn't Jewish. So it's never, uniqueness and as a separateness from God. And that is the problem, is that when you feel that separateness from God, that's when you will then use religion as a vehicle to fulfill what you want. You're not a vehicle that's united in one with God, but you're using God for your own self-glorification. And that's what happens in other faiths and other religions. And it can even happen for Jews in Judaism. It can be. It can, of course, but that's a perversion of it. And so we're absorbed in the light of, there's no whim and will of my own. When I'm doing God's mitzvah, it's his thing. So I'm negating my thing in the moment to do his thing. Now, holy people, who are the leaders of the Jewish people, they negate it. They don't even negate it. They've transformed and refined themselves. They don't need to negate. They are pure in every fiber of their being, completely righteous people, that they are just a vehicle and therefore just a mere reflection of the divine. These are the leaders of the Jewish people. So as a result, all they're doing is trying to inspire others Jews in the Jewish path, non-Jews in 7 universal Noahide laws, to become more deeply connected to God, and not separate, and not therefore to be subjugated in the way, just think about every nation that ever felt that they were, special, or they were the, whatever it was, whether it was the Genghis Khan or Aryan nations, and so on and so forth, the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, it led to subordinate, subjugate others for their will and whim, period. And using any kind of religion, and you have that in religion today, to just get what you want. More power, money, more pleasure, and whatnot. It's the opposite of what we're talking about over here. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts on what I just shared?
Well, isn't that why it's important for leaders to live by their religious values or whatever values they live by?
Yeah, but what does that mean exactly? Does that mean we're talking? This is far and above that. We're talking far and above that notion. What does that mean to live by it? What it means here, as we just explained, is the true leaders, right? Righteous people have no whim or will of their own. They're a vehicle for the divine. They're just a mirror. They just feel themselves. They don't feel themselves. They just feel what God needs, wants from them, and that is all that they sense. And that is all based in the teachings of the Torah, not based on any whim that they are going to justify by, oh, look what this verse says, so therefore we could do this. No.
Right, you're specifically talking about Jewish leaders, so that's like the even higher standard.
Totally. Yeah, totally. So, but from this, we should learn at least what in the non-Jewish world, what leadership is, and it's today it's the complete opposite of this. What's going on in America, what's going on anywhere and everywhere. It is, as we've spoken many times about identity politics, and it's about power. It's about your world vision that you want it your way, and if you need to destroy the underpinnings of a society in order to get what you want, so be it. We're going to destroy it, and that's what's going on right now. Rather than inspiring, elevated, sanctified, holy behavior, the complete opposite is what's being proposed and being done.
I see that too, Rabbi.
Yeah. Okay. Sonia, I really wish more was spoken about using religion. Can you share more? You are correct. Oops. You are correct. It's all in all religion. I love more on this topic. Yeah, it's what's going on in the world. You're right. So today, religion there's different kinds of religion. So politics is religion. Identity politics is religion. Religion being a set of beliefs that this is what I believe. This is what I feel is the truth. And it all stems from me. And that's the problem. That I am the arbitrator of truth. And then what is the PC thing to say? My truth. You have your truth, I have my truth, and another person has their truth. And that's the problem. It's not my God. It's my truth. My truth now will translate into my God, my religion. That's a problem. There's no bittul there. This is a word I wanna say and make sure that we have a clarity on what this word is. Bittul means self-nullification. Bittul means it's not about me. Bittul means that I am subordinate to something higher than me. I'm not dictating. So today's Erev Shabbos. I'm not going to dictate when I'm going to start Shabbos. It's dictated in the Torah, in Jewish law. I'm not going to dictate how I'm going to, how am I going to celebrate? Okay, yes, I could celebrate with this kind of fish or that kind of fish, or whatever. But and in that way, there's some room because if you enjoy it this kind, so have this kind of fish because you're supposed to have pleasure on Shabbos. Why? Because that's what Torah says. So Torah says you have to have pleasure. So I'm given over to do the things for Shabbos that will bring physical pleasure in the foods that you eat. But I'm given over to that notion. The Torah is telling me Shabbos. You're supposed to have Tainik Shabbos, the pleasure of Shabbos, and that's supposed to be expressed in the food that you eat. So you don't eat the same foods of the weekday. You don't, why? Because that's what I want. Because that's what God wants from me. So bittul means I put myself aside. God, what do you need from me? So for the Jewish people, we have the Torah. We have Jewish law. And through that will give me the general basis of how to lead my life, and what is appropriate, what's not appropriate, and what connects me and what disconnects me. But the problem though is I'm sorry, Vilman, just finish the thought. The problem in the world that we're living today, it's not starting in an objective truth of the Torah. It's starting in a subjective truth, my truth. And then that becomes what my God says. And therefore it's my God versus your God. And that's the problem. But if we give ourselves over to an objective truth of the Torah, that's what a Jew does, then we have a common point where we're starting. That doesn't mean there won't be differences. There will be, but there will be a bond, a commonality, and in a way that we can actually ultimately even get along. Sorry, go ahead, Vilma.
Yeah, I apologize. I get really excited when you talk because I see a lot of what you're saying. So I think in culture there's a perversion of a truth that is subjective. We all have truths that are subjective based on our experiences and all. But in the context of a religious life, there are objective truths that come from a place that requires deep knowledge of however many over 600 commandments that, for example, exist in the Jewish religion, which is different from other religions. So there are nuances, there are differences, but there's always an objective type of reality.
Right. And that's the idea then, to tie this all in with what we have spoken over here. So there's the betrothal, which means the union, right, through a mitzvah, through the study of Torah. There's a oneness that we create through that act. Why? Because that's God's thing, and He allows us that we can be united and one with Him through it. And that allows us at the same time to be sanctified, meaning that we transcend the human condition as a result of that union. That we, in that moment, there's a moment of eternity, and we become ultimately in that moment also a vehicle. That we are transformative in that sense. That so much so that this is my God. How's He my God? Because I'm doing His thing. Because I'm doing His thing, He becomes my God. meaning very personal, very connected, not distant, and this is our way. All right. Um, Shachar, Dana, Sina, Mer, Sloan, or Adi, or Batya. If you would like to share something, now is the moment. Um, and if not, that's wonderful too. Michael says, I know now that my free will should be the will of Hashem through my thoughts, my meditation, my study of Torah and mitzvahs daily. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Or, no, Michal. I think it's Michal. I'm sorry, not Michael. One letter difference makes all the difference. All right, folks. Beautiful. Oh, I see.
Hi, Rabbi. Just wanted to quickly say Shabbat Shalom and thank you so much for this, for all these words and everything that you taught us this morning. And it was a pleasure being here with everybody.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Shachar. Thank you very much for sharing that. So on that note, yes, we wish everybody a good Erev Shabbos, a Shabbat Shalom, a double portion of Achrei Kiddoshim. Oh, so much going on. By the way, today, if you want to join at 12:45, 12 o'clock for Rabbi Mendy for learning the Parsha, and 12:45 we'll be discussing some finer points about this week, and look forward to having you join. And if not, then Sunday at 10:30. Sunday is 10:30. And a reminder that the JLI course on Mashiach is less than 2 weeks away. And many of you have already signed up, which is amazing. For that course, you need to sign up. JLIMontreal.com for more information. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zich and Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a great day. Good Shabbos.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. Good Shabbos. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. All the best. All right. Amazing. Thank you, folks.